If your frets are starting to look like this, then it's a good thing that you clicked on our video. What's up guys, and welcome to this week's episode of TUGGtv. Now for a lot of people who are playing either the guitar or bass or any fretted instrument of that sort, there's always a lot of collection of gunk and even a bit of rusting on the frets as well. Now these things are not easy to take off, and this is one of the solutions which I personally use for my guitars and basses. Now before we go any further, let's keep in mind that the solution what I'm actually going to show you guys is going to be for frets which are really dirty. Now if your frets have just lost a bit of color and you just need it polished, then just use a bit of metal polish. It kind of brightens it up and saves you a lot of trouble as well. So for my particular condition, there was a lot of gunk on it, and well, I essentially wanted to take all of them out. Now if you're somebody who's beginning on their guitar journey, I would always advise you to have somebody else who knows this process along with you. But let's face it, it's not rocket science and it's simple enough for you to do if you feel confident that you can do it by yourself. Now if you're somebody who's new to the channel, make sure you subscribe to our channel right now, because we have quite a lot of content coming out with experiments on your guitars and basses, original content, and a few funny ones as well. So let's dive right into it. Okay, so for this particular process, these are all the different items what you're actually going to be having. You will need lemon oil in case you want to hydrate your fretboard, fret protectors for well, protecting your frets. If you don't have any of these, you can also make do with masking tape. So I'll show you how exactly to use this, going ahead in the video. You will need a clean cloth wherein essentially you don't have any dirt on it. Mine has a bit, but yeah, I used it last time, so it should be fine for this time as well. Now this metal polish is the one what I was talking to you initially about. There are different brands which are available, and if in case your frets seem a bit dull or you just want to just polish them a bit, you can just use this and the cloth and you don't need to do anything else. Coming up to some of the other ingredients what we have here, it's better to have a few sheets of paper. I have smaller ones which are cut out here. You'll need steel wool. The lower the gauge that you go for, the better it is. So you can actually pick up the 0 grade and it will be good. And the magnet is something which I'll get to at a later point in the video. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is take a small piece of paper and you kind of protect your pickups here. You can add in a couple of bits of tape here just to make sure it's in place. Now the main reason why I'm actually doing this is the factor that steel wool, whenever it comes in contact with the pickup wiring, there is every possibility that it might snap it, or rather snap the coil which is actually there inside of it, and this would kind of make your pickups dead essentially. It's not too much of an issue if you have covered humbuckers like the ones which I have, but I still don't want to take the risk, so I just cover them up anyway. The next step is to essentially hydrate your fretboard just with a bit of lemon oil. This acts for a couple of different reasons. One, it kind of helps you lubricate or hydrate the fretboard, for lack of different terms. The second thing is also the fact whenever you use the steel wool, and if by chance you actually come in contact with the actual wood present, because of the oil being there, it might actually reduce the damage caused. But as I said before, just make sure you're going to keep all the safety precautions not to hurt your fretboard, because well, let's face it, if that's screwed, everything else is gone. Now before we go to the next step, I just wanted to show you the two ways by which you can actually protect your fretboard a lot more better. So essentially this is a fret protector. You keep it on the fret so that there's essentially no contact with the fretboard whenever you're using the steel wool, or even say whenever you're polishing the frets as well. Another easy way of doing it essentially is to tape up your fretboard. So essentially what happens is you can use masking tape, because this is not going to leave any glue or anything of that sort, and that's all there is to it. Now another thing to keep in mind is if you are going for the taped up approach, you don't necessarily need to hydrate your fretboard. You can do it at a later point of time. What happens is whenever you're putting this and the lemon oil, there's every possibility that it might not sit properly and it might slip off. Now this is the time when we start using the steel wool onto the frets, so I'll take you to a much more zoomed in angle to see what actually happens. Okay, so as you can see here, there's quite a lot of decoloration on the frets, so this is because of gunk getting added up and a lot of things as well. It's a lot more worse when you actually go down the fretboard here, because this literally looks like it's rusted. Now your fret protectors usually come in two different sizes. One of them you can use it for when you're on the top of the neck, and the second one when you're down the neck. Now all you need to do is essentially lay down your fret protector, take in a bit of the steel wool. You don't need too much of it actually, just kind of wrap it down so that it becomes like a small scrub, and just lightly start going up and down the frets. Now essentially you will be able to clean out all the rust, gunk or anything else which is actually there on your frets by doing this. Just make sure you're not rubbing too hard, because you might actually dig deep into the frets and you don't want to damage those. Now if you're doing this for the first time, it's always better to keep taking it off and see if there is any patches or anything of that sort which is remaining, and then go back to work. The more you do it, the more you kind of get used to it, and then you carry on forward. And the fun part is you can already see how much of a difference the steel wool has made for these two particular frets. So now with this much more zoomed in angle, you can see how much of a difference just by using a bit of steel wool is going to get you. So for the next step, all you need to do is take in a clean cloth, as I told you, a bit of the metal polish, and just get in a small dab. Now a small dab of this is going to be more than enough for pretty much all your frets. You don't necessarily need too much, because well, you don't want it smearing all over the fretboard either. So this is going to be a bit dirty. If you guys want, you can use like a piece of cotton or some paper as well. I just like to smear it among the cloth just so that it makes it a bit more evenly divided. And well, when I start going on the frets, it's not going to well smear too much here and there either. Another thing, if you guys want to do, you can actually use the fret protector and then do it on top of this as well. For you beginners out there, I would actually suggest this approach, because well, if you start working with a bit too much, it's all, you cannot go back. Yeah, there's no other way to put this. So yeah, you can pretty much see that your metal polish is going to be removing a small layer of dirt as well. This is the one where the polish is actually going to be there. You take a different section of the cloth which is pretty much clean, and then you just rub the frets. Okay, so now this starts looking fresh. So this has been a small video on how essentially you can just polish up a couple of your frets. So once you do it across all of these, and once you're done with the phase when you're actually adding the metal polish to all of them, you can just swab in the cloth rather than going one by one on the frets, which you can, there's nothing wrong with it. You can just kind of wipe down the complete fretboard as well, and that would essentially solve the whole thing. Okay, so one thing which I actually like doing at the end of all of this is to actually take the cotton wherein it had the lemon oil already. You don't need to use it again, but essentially whatever residue is left over from it, you can just add it along the fretboard. So what this does is, if in case during the whole process, if your cloth or any perchance your lemon oil has actually come out, this would actually rehydrate the fretboard again, and yeah, after this you're done. Okay, now that we have actually completely polished all of our frets, we come down to the last step, which in my opinion is the worst step of all. Now what I'm talking about is the magnet step, what I told you before. So essentially one thing you might have noticed if you see all of these things here, I don't know how well it's going to be picked up on video, but steel wool sheds worse than any animal that I've seen ever before. So what I do here is I pick up a magnet, essentially just cover it up with paper, just kind of fold it in, and I just run it along the sides of the complete fretboard, a bit of the pickups, the body, crevices wherein essentially these might have actually fallen into, all along the workbench. You see it here, you find so many smaller shreds of the steel wool, and trust me, if you're gonna find this lying around your house, it's gonna be a bad day for you. So make sure that using all the magnet, you have pretty much cleared everything possible, and well, that's it. Your frets are ready, it's polished, it looks good as new. All you need to do is now restring it and play it. So that is essentially the way that I keep my frets polished and nice. Not only does it look good, but also it helps in your playability, and especially when you want to do those bends, well, it kind of pulls off with ease. Now with that shown, let us know what are the different ways that you guys keep your frets neat and clean. You can give a comment down in the section below and let the others know what all simpler approaches are there to actually, keep your frets at bay. Now this is TUGGtv signing off, and as always, stay safe, stay metal.